This story describes real events that happened in our city. All names have been changed, any coincidences are accidental. The house seemed frozen. Sarah felt as if the walls were deliberately silent, reproachfully, as if they knew something she wasn't ready to accept yet. A year had passed since the day William didn't wake up. He just didn't wake up. The doctors said it was his heart. Quick, almost painless. But for her it was like a lightning strike in a clear sky. Before the house had its own life. Pots clattered in the kitchen, the tea sounded, the front door slammed when William returned from work. Now every sound felt alien. The creak of a floorboard in the hallway made her flinch. The noise of water in the pipes frightened her. Even the silence had become different, heavy, thick, almost tangible. William's cup still stood on the shelf. Sarah couldn't bring herself to put it away. His shirt hung on a hanger in the hallway. She sometimes pressed the fabric to her face and inhaled, but the scent had long since faded. The photograph on the wall looked at her with reproach. Or with sadness. She didn't know exactly. She just avoided looking in that direction. But the worst was the mirror. That large mirror in the hallway where they both reflected when getting ready to go out. William would adjust his collar, she would fix her hair. They smiled at each other. Now passing by, Sarah caught herself afraid to raise her eyes. It seemed like someone was standing behind her. Every time her gaze slid over the reflection, everything inside tightened with an incomprehensible fear. One evening, when it was already dark outside, Sarah was walking down the corridor and suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. She turned around sharply, no one. But the feeling of someone's presence didn't leave her. She returned to the hallway, looked at the mirror, and saw only her reflection, pale, frightened, with wide open eyes. And something else. Something blurry, like a shadow, flickering behind her back. Her heart sank. Sarah turned around sharply, empty. Looked back in the mirror, nothing there either. Only her own face, white as a sheet. Her hands trembled. She grabbed the first shawl she found and covered the mirror. Her neighbor Grace, coming over for tea, noticed this and asked, "Sarah, why did you cover the mirror?" "I don't know. I just felt uneasy." "You're doing the right thing," she nodded and lowered her voice to a whisper. After a loved one passes, mirrors are covered. The soul is still nearby, it doesn't leave immediately. It can get stuck in the mirror. Sarah shuddered. Stuck how? Well, they say a mirror is a passage between worlds. Better not to risk it. My Aunt Clara, God rest her soul, also didn't uncover her mirrors for 6 months after her husband died. She said she heard footsteps at night. From then on, Sarah started covering all the mirrors in the house at night. Then she began burning incense in the evenings to, as Grace put it, cleanse the space of dark forces. She placed small icons in the corners of the rooms. She slept with a nightlight on because in the dark it felt like someone was breathing nearby. At night, she woke up from every rustle. Listened. Her heart beat so loudly it seemed audible throughout the house. She checked corners, peered into the hallway, clicked the light switch. The light stayed on all night. She was afraid to fall asleep. Afraid of the silence. Afraid of her own thoughts. One night, Sarah woke from a strange sensation. As if someone was watching her. She opened her eyes and froze. A shadow stood in the bedroom doorway. Tall. Motionless. The silhouette of a man. Sarah wanted to scream, but her voice stuck in her throat. She squeezed her eyes shut as hard as she could, counted to 10, and opened them again. The shadow was gone. In the morning, she tried to convince herself it was a dream. Just a nightmare. But there was no certainty. Fear had settled inside and didn't let go for a minute. Gradually, Sarah stopped leaving the house. She ordered groceries online, gave money to her neighbor to bring everything necessary. Friends called, offered to meet, but she refused under various pretexts. She didn't want to explain what was happening. How to explain something she didn't understand herself? Anthony, her son, visited once a week. Each time he noticed his mother becoming more and more detached. She spoke quietly in monosyllables. Her gaze wandered somewhere in the void. She flinched at the sound of a slamming door. When he tried to hug her, he felt how tense her body was, as if she was constantly expecting something terrible. "Mom, what's wrong with you?" he asked directly one day. "You're not yourself." "Nothing, Anthony. Just tired." "You're not just tired. You're as if here but not here. Looking right through me." "What happened if—" "You wouldn't understand," she brushed him off. "When you're alone in this house, you hear everything. Every sound. Every movement." "What movement, Mom?" "There's no one here. I know there's no one." She flared up unexpectedly sharply, then her voice broke into a whisper. "I'm not crazy. Just Anthony, I see him. At night. He stands in the doorway and watches me." Anthony froze. Looked at his mother carefully. Dark circles under her eyes. Hands trembling. Her face gaunt as if she had aged 10 years, but not for the better. "Mom, it's fatigue. You're not sleeping well, you're stressed. You need to see a doctor. Maybe they'll prescribe something to calm you." "I don't need any doctors," she turned away. "Just leave me alone, please." Anthony left that day confused and frightened. He understood his mother was slowly sliding into something dark that she couldn't escape on her own. But what to do he didn't know. A few weeks later he came again. This time with his wife Olivia. They entered the house and gasped. All the windows were curtained. Semi-darkness in the rooms, even though it was a bright sunny day outside. Lit candles stood in the corners. The smell of incense was so strong it was hard to breathe. Sarah sat on the sofa wrapped in a blanket, staring at one point. "Sarah, what is this?" Olivia looked around anxiously. "Why did you close the windows?" "It's like a Tom in here." "He's watching from the street," Sarah said quietly. "Standing across from the house and watching. I saw it yesterday. He stood under the streetlight and watched my window." Anthony and Olivia exchanged glances. "Mom, who was standing?" Will she raised her eyes to him, full of tears. "Your father. He can't find peace. I know it. I feel it. He's trying to tell me something, but I don't understand what." Olivia sat down next to her, took her hand. "Sarah, dear, it's grief. It's just grief. You miss William, so it seems he's nearby. But it's not him. It's your memory you're longing." "No," Sarah shook her head. "It's not memory. I see him. While awake. He comes every night. Stands in the doorway and watches. Sometimes even reaches out a hand as if calling me to follow." Anthony felt goosebumps run down his skin. He didn't believe in mysticism. Never had. But seeing his mother in such a state was unbearable. "Okay, Mom. Okay. Maybe you need to leave here for a while. Come stay with us for a bit. Distract yourself." "No." She jumped up from the sofa. "I can't leave the house. If I go, he'll be here alone. Completely alone. I can't abandon him. Mom, Dad is gone. Anthony took her by the shoulders. He's gone. Do you understand? He's gone. He is here, she whispered stubbornly. He's here. I know, Olivia said quietly to Anthony. She needs help. Urgently. The next day, they brought a psychologist to the house. A young woman, Megan, sat opposite Sarah and talked with her for a long time. Asked questions. Listened carefully. Didn't interrupt. When the conversation ended, Megan went out into the hallway where Anthony and Olivia were waiting. This is deep depression due to grief, she said quietly. Your mother hasn't passed through all the stages of accepting loss. She's stuck between denial and bargaining. She invented an explanation for why her husband seems to be nearby. The brain is trying to fill the void. Creates illusions that seem real. Is it treatable? Asked Olivia. Yes, but it will take time. Therapy, possibly supportive medication. The main thing is to pull her out of this isolation. She's closed herself in this house like a cocoon. No one contradicts her there, no one tells her that her visions aren't real. So they become brighter. Megan gave recommendations, left contacts, promised to come again. But after she left, Sarah declared she wouldn't talk to anyone else. She doesn't understand. No one understands. You all think I'm going crazy. But I'm not crazy. I just see what I see. Anthony ran his hand over his face. Felt helpless. Didn't know how to get through to his mother. That night, he stayed overnight at his parents' house. Olivia went home. She had work in the morning. Anthony settled in his old room. Couldn't sleep for a long time. Listened to the sounds of the house. Floorboards creaked. Wind whistled outside the window. Water dripped somewhere. Around 3 in the morning, he woke from a strange feeling. Opened his eyes and froze. A shadow stood in the doorway. Tall. Motionless. The outline of a male figure. Anthony jerked upright in bed, his heart pounding wildly. He reached for the switch, clicked it. Light flooded the room. No one was in the doorway. Empty. He got up, went out into the corridor. Silence. Looked into his mother's room. She was sleeping, covered head to toe with a blanket. Walked it through the entire house. Empty everywhere. Returned to his room but couldn't sleep anymore. Sat on the bed until morning, trying to find a logical explanation for what he had seen. At breakfast, he said to his mother, Mom, haven't you thought that the problem isn't with the house, but with you yourself? What do you mean? Well, you miss Dad. Very much. And your brain? It's trying to bring him back somehow. Creates images. Visions. It's not mysticism. It's psychology. Sarah was silent for a long time. Then asked, Did you see him? What? Last night? You saw him, didn't you? I know. You got up at 3 o'clock, turned on the light, walked around the house. So you saw. Anthony was confused. Didn't know what to answer. I don't know what I saw. Some shadow. But that doesn't mean. It does. You know it. You just don't want to admit it. Anthony left that day in turmoil. Tried to convince himself it was just a play of light and shadow, fatigue, suggestion from his mother. But the image of that figure in the doorway wouldn't leave his head. In the evening, Olivia noticed he wasn't himself. What happened if... Nothing. Anthony, I can see. Something happened in that house. He told her. Olivia listened and shook her head. Your mother has influenced you so much. She believes so strongly in these visions of hers that she's infected you too. A classic case of induced psychosis. I've read about it. When one person convinces another of their reality, and that person starts seeing the same thing. Maybe, Anthony agreed. Maybe. But that night, he woke up again in a cold sweat. Dreamed of his father. Stood at the end of a long corridor and waved his hand, beckoning him closer. His face wasn't visible. Only a silhouette. And a feeling of cold piercing to the bones. Anthony realized he had to do something. Urgently. Otherwise, he would start going crazy himself. The next day, he came to his mother with a firm intention. "Mom, we're opening the windows. Taking all these curtains off the mirrors. I''re out the house. And you're coming to stay with me for a week." "No options. Anthony, I told you." "No options," he repeated firmly. "Either voluntarily, or I call a doctor and they'll make the decision. Your choice." Sarah looked at her son with a long gaze. Saw determination in him. Nodded. "Okay." Together, they started opening the windows. Fresh air burst into the rooms, dispersing the stagnant smell of incense. Anthony removed the covers from the mirrors. Opened the drawn curtains. Sunlight flooded the house, and it immediately looked different, ordinary, familiar, homely. Sarah stood in the middle of the living room and watched as the space transformed. Something inside her shifted. As if a veil was falling from her eyes. "Maybe you're right," she said quietly. "Maybe I really did get confused." Anthony hugged her. "Everything will be fine, Mom. I promise." She stayed with them for a week. The first few days, she was quiet, thoughtful. But gradually began to thaw. Played with her grandchildren. Helped Olivia in the kitchen. Laughed at comedies on the. Slept peacefully without nightmares. When it was time to return, Sarah confessed. "I'm afraid." "Of what?" "Going back to that house." "What if it all starts again?" "It won't," Anthony said confidently. "Because now you know the truth. It wasn't Dad. It was your grief. You were hiding from the pain behind fears. But the pain must be lived through. Accepted. And let go." Sarah nodded. Understood he was right. When they arrived home, the house greeted her with silence. But it was a different silence, calm, peaceful. Sarah walked into the hallway, stopped in front of the mirror. Looked at her reflection. Stood like that for several minutes. Then smiled. "Forgive me, Will," she whispered. "Forgive me for not being able to let go for so long." That night she slept without fear. And no one stood in the doorway. No shadow. Only silence and peace. In the morning, Sarah woke up early. Made herself coffee. Sat by the window and watched the city wake up. Smiled at the sun. Felt something change inside. As if a weight had fallen from her shoulders. She took out her phone and called her friend Lisa. "Hey, let's meet up. I've missed you." Life was returning. Slowly, cautiously, but returning. And Sarah no longer hid from it behind covered mirrors and closed curtains. She opened the door to meet the light.